everyone. Welcome to another episode of SaaS Leaders Lounge. And today we're joined by a special guest, Dave Greenberger, who is the VP of Sales at CHEQ. Hi, Dave. How are you doing?
What's happening, Paris?
It's great to have you here on a Friday and share some of your wisdom.
Friday, what could be bad?
That's right. And have you got much going on over the weekend?
I have 3 small children, so my weekends are pure tornadoes and always have much going on. Yeah.
I've got 4 of my own. 2 of them are pretty small, so I totally understand the weekend is all about them. And hopefully Sunday night, you've got a little bit of time to prep for the week ahead.
We try our best. Yeah.
And are you off to any of the events that are coming up over the next week or so?
Yeah, we are down in Adobe Summit. It's like a big marketing convention, more than marketing, down in Vegas. So we've got that next week, and then we're at a Forrester convention, and then we've got Marketplace Risk Conference out in San Fran, and yeah, they're keeping us busy this year.
Great. Well, at least you're out able to attend some of these events, network with some great people, and also learn along the way what's happening in the industry. And I guess the first question I want to ask you, Dave, is when did you get into sales, and when did your passion for technology really start?
I actually thought when I went to school, I thought for sure that I'd be either on Wall Street or starting my own business and running my own business. And I don't know why, but I just happened to respond to a Facebook ad. I think it was the first Facebook ads that were ever out there for a small company. And there were like 15 guys hanging out in some little dance studio in New York City building a company. And I joined as a 15th employee, figuring that the worst case scenario, I'd learn what not to do when they go under in 3 months, and you know what I should do when I start my own company. And the best case scenario, I'd be, I don't know, the janitor at Google that made a couple $1 million. And it turned out to much the latter. That was ended up being a company called Yext, and they IPO'd, and it was a pretty fun way to start your career. So got me hooked.
That's great. And I noticed in that time you was the 15th employee and went on to head up a part of the Yext sales team. And how was that transition for yourself early in your career, kind of moving up the ladder pretty quickly and taking on a leadership position where you had to develop new skills and kind of learn quickly?
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. At Yext, just like many of the startups that I know, there's very much a throw them in the deep end type mentality. Try and hire as smart of people as you can, and give them a lot of responsibility, and let everyone run. And so that's what they did with me. I was a seller and became a top seller quickly, and then immediately overnight, I became a manager of a lot of my friends and some of the more tenured reps, which was, there were some challenges there, but generally, I always had a mindset to try and help. I enjoyed doing that to help people. So, I don't know, it was a bit of a natural transition, and my job was just to help all my friends get much, much better and make as much money as they could. It's pretty fun.
Great. And in that leadership journey, what would you say was the biggest lesson that you had to learn early in your career when you took on that first or second leadership role? What was the biggest transition point for yourself?
I don't know. I mean, it was such a fast moving time. We were, this is when I started taking over, we were still doing some fairly heavy SMB sales. So it was the type of model where you're bringing in a class of 10 or 15 new people every month. And, we'd be lucky if 60% of them graduated onto the floor. And then, the ones that would stay and be able to make it for 6 or 7 months was even less. So there was a lot of, it was high intensity. There was a lot of turnover, for better, for worse. There was a lot of voluntary, but also a lot of involuntary turnover that, are tough conversations to have early on. So I had to have those a lot. And then it was also a lot of, people in their first jobs and all the interesting things that that come around with managing a lot of young people in their first jobs out of school. So I don't know, we had to grow up pretty fast, I guess is the best way to say it.
I agree. And something I wanted to touch on is you went away and your passion for sales and helping people brought you to a point where, you building the sales machine. And I just want to understand a bit more about where that idea came from and what that's enabled you and the community to do so far.
Yeah. So like I say, I was at this company called CHEQ that ended up IPOing. I didn't stay all the way through the IPO. I ended up shooting off, but by the time I started this community called Building the Sales Machine, I was already like three startups in iterations of that. I was at a company called Foursquare, which at the time was kind of the heart of the startup community in New York City. A really, really great place to be. And a couple of my friends that I was working with there were really enamored by this idea of sales. They had built an incredible technology and operations center and everything, but they built everything without really going for revenue. So we were the new people coming in for sales. And a really good friend of mine, Eric Friedman, who was on that team and had built a lot of the operations at Foursquare, he was an ex-VC, said, what you are doing is so interesting and there's so many people out there. We should try to get this together and build a little community out of it. And what I saw was I had a bunch of friends from building those other companies as well that were now sales leaders everywhere else. And no matter what we were working on, we were all kind of doing the same thing and reinventing the wheel a little bit about how to sell this revolutionary new product, whatever it was, to our customers. But we weren't competing with each other. We weren't all in the same space. We were all doing the same thing. So we found out really easily that like working together was much more beneficial than keeping your secrets to yourself. And man, that proved true. That turned into kind of sidewindingly into a community called Pavilion that one of my friends that we building the sales machine with went to run, a guy by the name of Sam Jacobs. And now that's a community of, I think, 10,000 CROs and CMOs. And it's just, one of the best, being a part of that's been one of the best things that's ever happened to me in my career, from networking to learning and, benchmarking and expectation setting. It's been incredible.
That's great to hear. And it's actually funny you mentioned Pavilion because it's a company that I'm familiar with, and many of my friends are part of it at the moment. Many within the network is similar to some other communities, based around revenue and, allowing people to network, build, new skills and learn. So that's something I try to get involved in where I kind of haven't quite joined it yet. But fast forward to today with CHEQ, I'd love
Get in
you
there,
just
Paris. I love it.
I'll try to. I'm not a revenue leader yet, so we'll see where it goes. But just in terms of today and your time at CHEQ, I'd love you just to give myself and the guest a bit of a breakdown of what CHEQ is all about and what you're trying to achieve in the market.
Yeah, sure. So CHEQ is a cybersecurity company, and this is pretty unique. There's a lot of different cybersecurity companies out there. We're a cybersecurity company that today still, I don't know, about 65, 70% of our contracts come out of the chief marketing office, which is a really weird thing because typically marketers don't really get along well with security and vice versa. The more secure something is, the less creative and less reach you can have. So they're kind of at odds with each other. We actually help the business use security as a competitive advantage. So what I mean by that is, our customers are some of the most sophisticated cybersecurity organizations. But what we always find is no matter how sophisticated that cybersecurity stack is, when we actually get onto the website, there's still a lot of invalid traffic, like 10, 15% of that website traffic is fake users. It doesn't really cause much of a problem for the security team. It's not going to take down the website. It's not going to, phish all of their customers. But it does cause a cascading effects for the business. So really simple things like, 15% of your traffic is invalid, and you're making all your decisions based on first-party data-driven decisions, well, that's off, right? What you thought might be your best performing campaign, when you actually remove that inbound traffic, it might be your sixth best performing campaign. Or what you thought, was your best affiliate partners may actually be your third or fourth best, and you should have been pumping a lot more resources into the folks that are converting the highest. Or something as silly as, I spend $100 million a year in pay-per-click Google spend, and 2% of that traffic's invalid. We can help companies just get that back. So that's where CHEQ was started and developed. And now as we begin to work with a lot of these large companies, we see that we've got a bit of a different data signal than they have been seeing before. And now we're starting to work with their fraud teams or their anti-money laundering or a lot of the heavy security related items. So it's a pretty interesting place to be. It's been fun.
And in terms of, for you, when you're looking to speak to decision makers, what would you say is the main value add for CHEQ for them? If you had, a few minutes to really drive what the value is and what the business problem is that you're solving, how would you summarize that into, a sentence or two, if it's even possible?
Yeah, so there's mostly an efficiency problem, right? You're misallocating your resources in some way, shape, or form, and that's a hard thing for businesses. In the last couple of years, efficiency has been a core driver. How do we do more with less? And so, I'm in a kind of lucky space. We've been somewhat in a down market for the last 4 years. What's a better thing to be selling in a down market than efficiency, cost savings, some incremental revenue, and then some added security. So, it's been really kind of a nice wave to ride.
Amazing. And with being somebody that's building revenue teams in the organization, what would you say is key elements, especially in a startup, right? You can't really afford to get hiring wrong. What would you say is some of the key elements when you're creating a high intensity culture for a sales team? What are the, soft skills you're looking for and the experiences as well?
Yeah. I used to, I started my career a lot in heavy kind of SMB cold calling type of sales. And what I used to say when people ask me this question was that there's only three things that make up a good sales team. And it's hire very hungry, entrepreneurial minded people, the type of folks that like in college had way too many activities. They were on a sports team and in a fraternity and had 3 jobs or something like that. And then set up the incentives really well so that when they win, the company wins. And that sounds like an easy thing to do, but it's really hard to tweak those levers perfectly. And when you get it right, you just can set it up and everyone can kind of row. And, the last thing is, at least what I used to say is, make everyone have so much fun that they forget how hard they're working. And I think that really was the key for a little while. You can't sit at your desk and make 150, 200 cold calls a day. If you were in a cubicle doing that by yourself, you'd go crazy. But, if someone's throwing a Nerf ball at your face after you get off the call and there's some music going and everyone's really competitive and having fun together, it's a really exciting and fun place to work. And so now that I'm in more enterprise and mature organizations, I think that answer still holds true. It's just a little different. The concept of what's fun at work isn't necessarily a bunch of competitions and balls being thrown around the office. It's a little more about, finding true value and enjoying the problems that you're working on and that problem solving, and having that mix with your family and being able to balance those things together and enjoying your work family, the people that you're spending all your time with, like really enjoying their company and the people that you're with. So different definition of fun, but I think those are still the same values that help make startups a really fun place to work.
And for you being a leader in the organization, a question I have is how are you able to balance, the family life and being quite high up in the organization? And obviously, when you're in a startup, you're wearing many hats already as it is. you've got so many things to juggle. What's your advice to leaders that are in a similar situation, that are asking this question to themselves?
I have zero advice. I don't know how I manage it. It's a lot. It's hard. You just got to throw yourself in, take everything one day at a time. There is no possible way that you can ever accomplish all the things that you need to do, probably in either place. So you just have to get okay with that, get very good at prioritization, and knock off as many things as you possibly can each day, not get frustrated when there's still some things left over, and attack those tomorrow.
I guess something software companies are always trying to do is remain leaders in their space. How would CHEQ, positioning themselves in a way where they're able to remain leaders in the go-to-market security space?
Well, we have maybe a unique challenge at CHEQ. I think a lot of early stage companies will say we're not so early stage anymore, but that we don't have any competition, or no one does exactly what we do. At CHEQ, we're actually in a space where I wish we had a bit more competition at this point, because we really are going out and educating the market in a big way. Of course, we solve a challenge of like bots and fake users. That's not so new to everyone. Most marketers and security people, of course, have grown up with, hey, there's bots out there. But there hasn't always necessarily been a way to identify the scope and actually like fix that problem and remediate it. So every time we're talking to someone, it's really the first time that at the level that we're exploring, they're having this conversation. That's an easy way to stay the leader. But also, we are a company, I think that our best strength is ingenuity. And, we continue to keep tinkering and solving problems, and then diving a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper. And, we're at the point now where we've got 8 different products and are really, really solving huge strategic issues for, some of the biggest customers in the world. So being able to just continually like chip away at a larger and larger and larger problem set increases our mode and keeps it a little bit harder for someone to just come up and nip at our toes.
I agree. You've got to keep tweaking the product, but also you've got to see how the landscape is changing and adapt to it to stay leaders. I have a question about ROI, but I'm going to save that to the end from a question from our previous guest. But something that I hear a lot, and I guess cybersecurity is changing the landscape over time. Traditionally, 10 years ago, it was very much cybersecurity leaders have been in that space for 10, 20, 30 years. Now I'm seeing people transitioning from different backgrounds, data, AI. So I just want to understand, for you, now you're leading CHEQ's sales team. Before that, you spent time in IoT, data, and AI. What would you say are some of the key skills that have enabled you to be successful across companies of all different sizes and selling various solutions?
I don't know how successful I've been, but I think I have made it a point to jump to a couple different places to learn, and where I think bigger opportunity is, and try and get in that curve of where technology is going and what's next, and being in the right space. And yes, I found that to be pretty hard. I joined a company called Hitachi, and I went from selling pretty like not that complicated marketing solutions to extremely complex data technologies. And it was really very intimidating and hard for me to figure out. But I pretty quickly learned that sales is sales is sales, and CS is CS is CS, and marketing, the same tenets kind of apply everywhere. Once you understand what your products can do and how it can help people, it's just about going out, making relationships, listening to what the customer wants, figuring out what their biggest challenges are, and threading that needle into how you can help them, and being very fair and honest and setting the right expectations. And if you can do that, it doesn't really matter, the same tenets apply just about everywhere. So if you can be curious enough to learn the industry quickly and learn what your customers care about, what's important to them, I think you can cross those different industries well. There's a lot to gain from domain knowledge and economies of scale and learning by staying in one place. But I've always preferred to hire for high horsepower individuals and really strong mental athletes that can pick it up and learn, as opposed to just being in that same space over and over and over again.
Amazing. I've seen a study that says those that usually when they're in university are in some sort of sports society, they're very competitive and therefore do well in industries like sales. But just on a piece that you mentioned earlier on in the conversation, you were targeting, say, marketing officers. Obviously, the scope of those ICPs have changed over time. How are you educating and enabling customers to really understand the value of the CHEQ solution and how it can help them with their pain points? Because I guess cybersecurity is generally a technical area and the products are generally technical. So being able to make sure that customers are able to easily use the product and understand the ROI is important for, minimizing churn rates, etc.
Yeah. I think there is a beauty and an art to keeping things deceptively simple, if you will. Taking very complex ideas and situations and being able to distill them down to the most important points that anyone can understand, and then also allowing them to click in a little bit deeper and get that extra layer of data and basically as deep as they want to go. So I'm pretty lucky with what we're doing today. I can say this fairly frankly. If anyone sits down with us for 5 minutes or so and just hears that, hey, we can help you get some of that fake traffic off your site to build efficiencies and increase revenue. Most people understand that and they want to go through our sales process and learn a little bit more. That's a great thing to have. You don't get that at every company. And then I can say pretty frankly too, if someone actually does go through our process, meets with our engineers, actually gets deep in the data, they want to buy our product as well. So the real challenge is making sure the right people can buy the product and they find the budget and all. There's a lot of complicated political things that go on there. But one of the things we typically are offering is a scan of the site in some way, shape, or form, so that they can really see what's happening inside their business, and we can teach them and show them all these things that maybe you didn't know was going on under the covers, where they're coming from, maybe a little bit of why, and then what it means for your business and what you can do about it. And it's not that complicated to understand. You don't need to know every single reason code or how we're doing all the tests to understand the net of the impact that's happening on the site. Then as long as you can hack away and kind of trust that, hey, we're not making this up and there really is some sophisticated science behind it, it's not a huge leap of faith to make to go and implement it in the business.
Well, if anyone listening is experiencing that problem, I recommend them to check out the CHEQ solution. And just being a leader.
Great idea. Thank you.
For those in the US and in your team specifically, I just want to find out, how are you marrying marketing, customer success, pre-sales and sales together? Because obviously, especially as businesses are growing, you want to have that cohesion between those departments. And I know often there is a talk of, okay, marketing doesn't like sales, sales doesn't like pre-sale. So really understanding how it's important to merge these teams together and make sure that there's kind of that team spirit within them.
Yeah. I mean, I think now more than ever, there is a very gray line between all of those different departments. Marketing and sales are almost the same thing right now, and we're selling a lot in the enterprise, so a lot of our motions are kind of account-based marketing, if you will, which is just very, very heavily a joint effort between the two organizations. So it is really important to get along with the folks in the other org, and it's really important to set the right expectations and SLAs and everything that you need there. But more often than not, there's, like I say, a blurred line there. We bring in our CS folks pre-sales very often to help us solve some problems and make sure that they understand the complicated solution that we're building so that they can build it later. We're very, very, very cognizant of kind of the classic under promise, over deliver, make sure we're setting very fair expectations and often very conservative expectations, because we're a very large kind of land and expand type of sale. So making sure the customer is just overwhelmingly happy every step of the way is the best way for us to get new sales as well. And, you know, if everyone's kind of aligned on those missions, I can't say it's easy. It's never easy, but it's a lot easier for everyone to be rowing in the same direction and being on the same page, because it's win-win-win-win when you get it right.
I agree, and it all boils down to customer experience, right? You want them to feel that they're listened to, that their problems are being solved, and more importantly, it's been a smooth transition to implement the solution. And lastly, before we move on to the quickfire questions, I've got two questions I want to cover. One is about the importance of leveraging data and analytics in sales and revenue strategies to really identify those opportunities. How are CHEQ and your team, using data and analytics to improve the productivity levels?
So I love data, but I have a bit of a data deficiency myself, I would say. I operate a lot in my business from gut feel, which is not the best thing to do. So always one of the first or most important hires that I try to make is kind of a data-minded right hand, someone that is in my business as much a part of my team as myself or anyone else, knows exactly what we're trying to do and can constantly throw data in my face and say, hey, did you know that this was happening? Or I know you said that you wanted to do X, but check out Y. Maybe we need to look in this hole. Did you know that this was a gap? And man, you never want to go with just the data. You never also want to go with just gut feel. I think marrying those two together, trying to understand the why and what and the story to make the decision is the right thing to do. We help our customers a lot with this now too. There's not a client I can think of that doesn't at least claim that they are a data-driven org at this point. And a lot of that data is coming from their first-party data, from things that are happening, on their website or their digital customers. And then when that's off, you can be putting yourself and your teams on wild goose chases. It's really hard to cut through the noise. I think probably in our society, we have this problem more than ever. There's more data and research available on any given topic that you'd ever want. And it's harder than ever to find truth and figure out what to do with that. So cutting through the noise to get to the right data and making the right decisions off of that is kind of challenging. And that's a core thing of what we do. So a lot of opportunity, a lot of challenge. Yeah.
I agree. And even me, when it comes to data, it's a lot to process. You also, as your organization is growing, you start to look at things like change management to improve efficiency, should I say. And sometimes change management in itself is a big project. But just before I move on again, last question from me is, what would you say is two of the biggest lessons you've learned throughout your career today?
One lesson: hard work pays off. I think that's all I can say. Just, being in early stage world and getting through some IPOs, going to large companies, I just have myself and a lot of friends and a lot of ex-employees. It's a roller coaster. What seems like a great time 1 month may turn out to be not the best ride that you're on. And what seems like an awful situation actually might be the best that you possibly could have been if you can just ride it out 2 or 3 months later. And so not being whiplashed by your business and the external factors that are happening, and just kind of like being true to what you want to do, staying really focused on your goals, and just putting your head down and working hard every day, typically compounds. Even if the company you're at doesn't work out, if you're doing a really great job, you're learning every day, you're getting better and better and better, the people that you've met, the things that you've learned are going to help you for your next situation. And I can say that about, just about any scenario there is. So just staying true to what you want to do and putting your head down can get you somewhere.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate you sharing that. And just as we move on to the quick fire questions, I've got 3 or 4 in mind. The first one is, it's maybe easy to answer being based in New York. Are you more of a picnic or a barbecue person?
I can't remember if I've ever been on a picnic, so I'm a barbecue guy all the way.
And would you say you're into mini golf or bowling?
What are you more into?
I'd say I'm more into mini golf, to be honest.
I'm trying to get a lot more into regular golf, but I introduced bowling to my kids like, I don't know, 3 months ago, and they are in love right now. So wintertime, bowling.
Great. And would you say you're more of a city life person or countryside person?
Ooh, I currently live about an hour and a half outside of New York City. And when I'm out here, I miss the city every second. And when I'm in there, I really just want some woods and trees. So I'm about a mix of both. Try to get the best of both worlds.
And the last question from the quickfire section is, would you say you're more of a fruit or vegetable person?
Fruit. Come
Great.
on.
So,
Who's a vegetable person?
Yeah, so am I. And just in terms of a question from our last guest, it's a tradition we have here. The question is from a chief customer officer, and their question is, how would you define the value of customer success in your organization?
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about that a couple minutes ago. I think if you want to be a good sales organization, you need to be led by CS, actually. Figuring out what your product can do well, what your customers have loved in the past, and making sure that that absolutely happens is the only and correct way to actually go sell to new customers. So, from a sales perspective, like we said, like under promise, over deliver, setting really clear expectations that we know we're going to be able to blow out of the water is the absolute best thing you can do to go find the next sale, the next sale, the next sale. And in that way, you really do need your customer success team to lead the story that you're telling to your pre-sale clients. So, I think customer success is probably the most important department in the organization for a fast-growing revenue org.
Great. And is there a question that you would like to share with the next guest of ours? It will be a co-founder of a cybersecurity company.
Yeah, I think that the whole world has been boggled up by the AI boom and the AI revolution, and I'm sure that's going to be, if we look back, it'll be a little blown out of proportion. But what we do find with all of this new AI is just more and more stuff, more data, a lot more automated transactions, more anonymity. And for me, it's really interesting to hear how security organizations are evolving to figure out what that new world is going to look like. Everyone's preparing for it right now. So, how is their org preparing for the new AI boom?
That's great. I'll be sure to ask that to our next guest. I want to say thank you, Dave, for joining us. And if anyone is in the sales and revenue leadership space and they want to get involved with Pavilion, how would you recommend that they do it?
With Pavilion, I think the website is pavilion.com, and go check it out. It's an amazing organization to grow your career or even just get some therapy for your brain. Yeah.
And is it something that they would have to pay for, or is it like a free community?
I think they've got all kinds of different paths to get involved. It's eventually a paid membership. And yeah, if anyone's having fake traffic or bot issues, we can help there as well.
And for everyone listening, I hope you've enjoyed the episode, and please check out CHEQ if there is some issues there that you're facing with your traffic.
Paris, great to hang. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you. You take care now.
Bye bye.